I'm really looking forward to this episode. Beef stew and fry bread. The beef stew is really good. The fry bread is a lot of fun. I think you'll really enjoy it. There's a lot of things you can do with it. We're going to do a lot more with it down the road. So let's get to it. We'll start with some veggies from the garden. Then I'm going to make some stock in a hot pan here with some trimmings I've kept in the fridge. Carrot pieces, onion, skins, a little bit of cabbage. Now we'll trim up these carrots. The ends and bits can go into the stock pot. And then we'll just rough chop these, get them ready for the stew. Do the turnips the same way. Trim them up, the bits can go in the stock pot. And then I'll just have the turnips. Trim up this onion. It's the same thing, the skin and the ends can go in the stock pot. And then I'll just rough chop this into some nice chunks. Trying to decide if I wanted to use the whole onion, but may as well. So, a couple of cups of water on the brown veggie pieces. I was trying to bring a little more flavor out of the veggie by toasting them in a dry pan a little bit. Then I'll give these potatoes a rough chop. Get some nice big chunks. Want big chunks on everything because we've got a nice long cooking time. Then sprinkle some paprika on our stew meat. Some granulated garlic. Some pepper. And then a little bit of flour. The flour will just help it brown. It'll also help the stew thicken just a little bit. And mix that all up so it's coated nicely. Turn down the stock when it starts to boil. Let it just simmer for a bit. Nice hot pan, some nice cold oil. And we'll start our stew meat sauteing, browning up. Give it a good stir, and then we'll let it go for a little bit. A little bit more oil and add the potatoes. Let those get a little browning on them. I'll throw in the onion. I like to get a little caramelization on each piece as I add it, so I add everything one at a time. Then the turnips. And then finally the carrots. A little bit more granulated garlic. Here we are seasoning every step of the way again. A little bit of paprika. A little bit of Cavender's. Some crushed red pepper flakes. And then some parsley flakes. Get that all mixed, and then we're going to strain the veggie stock into here. And I'll just throw all those veggie pieces on the compost pile. And then add a little bit more water. Using a little lime juice as a flavor enhancer there. A little bit of Worcester. And I was just thinking I've got some cabbage, so I'm going to add a little bit of cabbage. Trim this up a bit. Save the pieces for next time I do stock. Just a good rough chop on this. Then I'm going to use a little bit of bacon fat to really enhance the flavor of that cabbage. Nice hot pan. Just give this a little bit of a saute to kind of wilt it a little bit, get a little bit of caramelization on it for flavor. And then into the stew with it. Yeah, let's come up to heat, so I'm going to reduce the heat a little bit after stirring it. And cover it for a bit. Get it with a little thyme. Some basil. And then a bit of beef base. Now for our fry bread. About a cup of flour, about a quarter cup of the sweet wheat flour, a teaspoon of kosher, a teaspoon of baking powder, and so about an eighth of a cup of powdered milk, a tablespoon of sugar, about half a cup of water. I'm going to add a little bit more here, I think. And then a little bit more. So total about 3/4 cups of water. which after I got going it seems a little moist, so I'm going to add some little more of the sweet wheat flour. About another quarter cup I think on there. Then I'm going to dust my counter with a little flour to work on. And then I'm using a canola oil there, about 2 cups or so. Bring it to a nice high heat. You want it about 350 degrees. Coat both sides of the dough with flour so it will be easier to work with. Also really helps to coat your hands too. About a golf ball sized piece of dough, and work it in on the counter with the flour. Coat both sides, patty it out until it's a nice thin little cake, round cake. I prefer to work it with my hands instead of rolling it. When the oil's really hot, about 350 like I said, we'll do the cakes one at a time. That should really fry like that. And you'll see it rises quickly to the top. That's perfect. Also see it browning along the edges here. Flip it over. You can flip these once or twice. I like to try and get them like once on each side. That got puffed up really nicely. It would have been good to stuff. There we go. Be sure you bring the oil back up to heat before you throw in the next one. Whenever you're frying, you always want to have nice hot oil, otherwise your food gets real greasy. Another really good tip is I drain these on brown paper bags instead of paper towels. Paper towels get all mushy and soggy. It's just a real mess. Paper bags are wonderful. Oh yeah, plate of fry bread goodness. Those guys are ready to eat. I want to keep them nice and warm. And there we go, our beef stew and fry bread. Steaming hot goodness. Alright, there's the beef stew and fry bread. I really hope you give that a shot. The fry bread's a lot of fun to make, especially like making it in the small size. A couple of things I wanted to talk about. Fry bread's normally a larger piece. If you just take off a bigger piece, about the size of if you two golf balls together, patty that out, and you make a large one, you'll get about 5 out of this recipe. You probably want to double this recipe anyway, make a lot of fry bread. If you don't have a thermometer to check the oil, you really want to have your oil nice and hot. Just sprinkle a little pinch of flour in there. If it sizzles and turns brown right away, it's ready. If it doesn't, let it go a little bit longer. Another thing, if you make some extra fry bread, a little bit of butter with some honey whipped into it is really nice to put on top of that. I think next week we'll be doing a chicken fry with homemade noodles, so check in for that. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.